So I got a request to talk a little bit about experiences being genderqueer or non-binary in the workplace. So this is a topic I want to address. I don't know that I will do it justice today. I'll have more specific things I imagine in the future. But just briefly, being genderqueer at work, there are going to be a lot of circumstances that affect if you're out, how you're out, if you're out to everyone. For example, in my current situation, I am not specifically out. I work with way too many people, several of whom I worked with for many, many years prior to identifying this way. And it's kind of too much effort to try to go back and explain it to people that I maybe have minimal interaction with, really, except for a few immediate coworkers. And in that situation, there are a couple people I just don't feel like having that conversation with. And it's not a situation where I don't think I would be supported. I think everyone would be very supported and pretty rad about it. I just kind of don't want to get into it. Um, and so for me, that does mean that I deal with being misgendered pretty constantly at work. But another factor in my decision is that my work environment is one where we are constantly interacting with clients. And so I'm already being pretty much the majority of the time I am being misgendered by clients. And it's just not situations where you would stop and have a conversation about gender identity and pronouns. It's just not realistic or appropriate in those situations. Um, and unfortunately, uh, gender identities like being genderqueer, polygender, are just not widely known enough where I can just say, oh, it's they, and someone will understand exactly what I'm telling them. And so those were kind of factors that went into my decision when I really, really started coming out and being much more socially out. I don't know what's going on with my hair right here. Um, that I had to decide, do I want to be annoyed and deal with the misgendering at work? Or do I want to be annoyed and deal with having 50 different conversations trying to explain what gender identities are? And so that just came down to that, because also I hopefully, if things go as I plan, will be done with grad school in a bit more than a year and moving on to a different work situation. That situation, however, I will be working with youth, with students, and in situations where people address adults and the adults will address one another in front of students, at least, with their honorifics. So, like, for me, that's Mix, my last name, but Mr. and Ms. are the honorifics that would normally be used. I am only comfortable whatsoever with Mix as an honorific. I've already realized that I am not going to be able to deal with being misgendered in a situation where I can prevent it. So I am going into this situation with a mindset that I am going to initially have those conversations with people, and correct them if they misgender me, but not in a manner that makes everything about me about my gender either. Just this is my name and how I should be addressed. Just like if one of your coworkers got married and so their name changed, you would change how you address them. Just think of it that way. And my pronouns are they, them, their. That's it. You can address me with those terms and we're cool. But not everyone is in a city that is as liberal and queer friendly as mine. Not everyone is going to be comfortable just having those conversations. And then there are also topics like non-binary people do fairly often seek some form of medical transition. So whether that is hormones and or any type of surgery, or even sometimes maybe just drastically changing your appearance, but especially with hormones or surgery, um, even if a lot of non-binary people will go on lower doses of hormones or just use them. Sometimes they'll do a low dose for a short period of time to get just some of the effects. I heard someone describe it once as wanting to even themselves out, which I actually really like that description because that's internally how I visualize myself is that kind of even out between twixt genders. But I'm off topic. Um, if you are pursuing any of those methods, at some point there are going to be some fairly obvious changes to your body that you're going to end up having to have some type of conversation. And there are people who, in certain environments, like work environments, may choose to just say they're trans because they find it easier, unfortunately, than being able to be completely authentic about being non-binary. Um, so my point is, I suppose, in all of this, that work situations are going to be tricky. There are people when they do any major transitions that will move to different cities entirely to not have to deal with some of that. So hopefully, people are becoming more informed and educated and progressive as a society, where people don't feel like they have to abandon their current life to be able to be more them. And like I said, even though I've made my decision at this time not to come out at work, if anyone like found out or questioned me, I am completely fine with that. I would be honest with them. I would tell them I don't care if you tell everyone we work with because I don't. I just don't want to because that's a lot of work I don't feel like doing. Um, so yeah, so I think as an adult being genderqueer, workplace can be probably the one of the trickier things. And I didn't even get into if you're in a very conservative type of work. Like if you're a super like I'm in a kind of business professional environment, but if you're in a super professional business environment or some other careers that maybe it's not considered professional to not conform to your gender norms. Uh, those are kind of situations that you have to assess your comfort level, your likelihood of it causing any issues at work. Like could you lose your job and are you okay with losing your job? That sort of situation. Because realistically, there just are not the type of legal protections for trans people in those types of situations. So it is, there are definitely people who will choose not to be out at work. On the flip side of that, for a lot of non binary people, while it can super suck to deal with being misgendered and um, not necessarily being yourself and open, you can kind of be incognito at work, depending on your presentation and again, what and if you're pursuing medical transitions of any kind. Um, you can go about your work life and then outside of that, be more yourself. That is not an ideal situation for anyone, I don't think. But that's kind of where it stands. So I guess because apparently I can't make short videos, I'm so sorry. Um, but if you have specific questions, like how do you address this specific issue at work, or what do you think about this situation, I am happy to try to answer those in less than 10 minutes. But that is my first video on being genderqueer at work.